Hello, everyone. Welcome to the newest episode of our podcast, Ready, Set, Rewatch, where we're watching movie and TV shows. Some we like, some we hate. My name is Skyler, and with me is my co-host Daniel. Daniel is here. Say hello, Daniel.
Hello.
Today we are continuing to watch Star Trek: The Original Series.
Yeah. So this week we've got episode 6, The Enemy Within, the Kirk is Evil episode.
What I jokingly called the first of many,
The,
but
the first of many
it's
evil
not that,
Kirks.
not that many. Let's start off with how this episode starts. Daniel, get us into it.
So this episode starts with the most blatant CGI enterprise that I have seen so far in 6 episodes. It's pretty
Yeah, that's
bad and
the
moving really slow. But the proper episode actually starts with the crew of the Enterprise on what looks like a beach planet. It's like a really sandy planet, and
yeah.
they've got a beach tent in the background that's got like a rainbow beach ball pattern on it. And Sulu is holding a dog, just like
Ye-
basically just a regular ass dog that
This
they
is
have
an
stuffed into like a Wookiee costume with a rhino horn and two little like porcupine antennas.
they look like straws, like cartoon bendy straws almost.
Yeah, and they're just sticking out the top of this dog's head.
This is an infamous Star Trek TOS alien. I think
Really,
everyone there's jokes. I'm pretty sure lots of things have made jokes about like it's just a dog.
it is just a dog. It's a dog that they've like wrapped in a blanket, effectively.
The most like the cutest, most docile little animal that they could just cram into a thing, and it's plot important as we'll get to. But yeah, the funny thing about this planet that they're on, you said it looks like a beach, and it does. You wouldn't think this planet could reach like minus 40 degrees, but
Yeah,
it can and it will.
it can. They mention it in passing, and you're like, I'm sure that won't come up.
Uh,
But boy, howdy, do it.
we're reaching a point where I think already 6 episodes in, and we see like these kind of rocks and that just indoor like sky background part of the
Hmm.
studio, and it's just like, okay, we're on an alien planet. I get it.
We're
Like a lot of them
doing
kind of look like this.
we're doing alien stuff. Here we go.
Yeah.
So one of the random crew members called Fisher, like, is messing around on some rocks, and he falls and hurts himself, and his hand starts bleeding pretty bad, and his blood is red, which I made a note of only because in a previous episode when what's his name fell and stabbed himself with the butter knife, it was
Mhm.
pink. So I guess we have
Yeah.
decided that in fact blood is red, or maybe the butter knife guy was an alien and we didn't know. You know,
Oh, that's not impossible.
Spock's blood's
Uh,
green, so why not?
I was slightly shocked by how much blood was on his hand for this shot.
It was a big fall. He fell like maybe
Uh,
3 feet.
you always hear, I think it was more of like the 50s than it was the 60s, but your grandparents always tell you like people weren't allowed to sleep in the same bed on TV back in the day.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, like, get this dude to a hospital. He's bleeding.
And that's basically what Kirk says. So Kirk and Sulu, I think, with the dog, I'm sure, runs up and is like, "Hey, man, I see that you've fallen into a vat of mustard and you're covered in like a yellow thing and your hand is bleeding. Hey, you need to beam on up and go to medical." So Fisher goes ahead and does that. And as soon as he does, Scotty, who's in the transporter room, is like, "Hey, you're covered in a weird magnetic ore, and you've completely screwed over our transporter. Way to go, dude."
Yeah.
But then he beams up. I guess he hasn't realized like immediately yet. He's like suspicious of it because then he beams up Kirk, acting tired and kind of confused, and so Scotty like takes him by the arm and like leads him out of the transporter room to go to medical, I assume. And then wouldn't you know it, there's a second Kirk, and he immediately strikes the most cartoony, evil, I'm the bad guy pose I think you can possibly do, and there's like a low angle shot with like
Yeah.
rim lighting on him. It is among the goofiest things we've seen in this show so far.
He's also wearing eyeliner.
He is in fact wearing eyeliner, and
Uh,
it took me a while to realize it. I was like, well, his eyes are really good. Oh no, he's evil.
I think I don't know if it's because of this shot, and how up close to his face it is, and how from pointing from beneath him it is.
Yeah.
but it's hard to tell in this first shot. But there are other shots where he'll walk in a room, and you're like, "Whoa, Kirk, your eyes!"
Kirk, why are you so
Uh,
sexy?
and that is a specific like. I mean, they did it for a reason, obviously, but there was a trivia note that said it was a choice to make his eyes pop more to make him look more evil,
Hmm.
which I guess makes sense. It is funny not thinking about that, just being like evil Kirk wears eyeliner.
And that's where we get our first commercial break, which I mentioned because I've been going back through the previous episodes that we've recorded of this, and we've never mentioned yet the intro music, which plays at this point. It's
Oh
really
yeah,
good. It's like an instant classic. I really, really like it.
yeah.
It's
Um,
super good.
it's interesting that it kind of gets, I don't want to say tossed out with TOS. I don't remember if the animated series from the 70s has it as an intro. It's not the music I think of when I think of that show, but obviously by the time we roll around to next gen, they use the theme that was composed for the movies,
Mm.
as that's what is like became the Star Trek theme there. But yeah, this one, do 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 do. It's good.
It's really good.
Classic. They did I think no, they brought it back for like the credit score for like the J.J. Abrams movies.
Oh
Um
yeah.
but that's I don't think it's been, I'm sure now in the age we are in, we bring back everything from the past. They probably used it for like nostalgia points on some of the newer shows. Like, I know that obviously it became the show Strange New Worlds when the Enterprise was like teased at like the end of season one, I think, of Discovery. Like the Enterprise shows up, and I would be shocked if they didn't bring this theme back for like that part.
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense actually.
But yeah, Star
Um,
Trek music, good.
very good, very good. Liked it a lot. We also get the first captain's log of the episode, and Kirk comes over and basically just tells us like removes any confusion of what might have been happening.
Yeah.
So first of all, he's like, we were doing a specimen gathering mission down on the planet, and I'm like, oh, so that's why they had the dog. So
Yeah.
they were like gathering plants and stuff, and they were gonna be like, I don't know, put it in a zoo or something.
Yeah.
And then he just blatantly is like, and now there's an evil Kirk running around the ship, and I was like, oh, okay. So I guess
That's
he's
for
the bad guy. Cool,
That's for
cool,
the
cool, cool, cool,
people
cool,
that
cool, cool.
missed the first 2 minutes of the broadcast. Came in late. Didn't
It
finish
really
dinner in
is.
time.
It was like maybe
Yeah,
5 minutes, and they just had to recap the whole thing. It was like,
yeah.
Captain's log. This is what happened 4 seconds ago.
I get it. I get it.
So Bad Kirk is being super weird, and he's like stroking all the computer consoles and like basically hissing like a cat. Like he's
Yeah,
like one step away from that.
that's the thing. It's about another episode later in the season as well. I have made note to realize that television like bad guys. I don't think it's just this show, but I think just television bad guys of this era
Mm.
have to act like the most suspicious people to ever exist. Like you have to be able to look at that. You're in 1966 or whatever it is, and you're sitting in the living room and you turn on TV, whether it be this or Bonanza. Was that in the 60s?
Probably.
Your dad needs to be able to say while sitting on the couch, "Oh, that's a bad guy."
That's the bad one. You'll
And
see, honey.
it's even more confusing because in this one the bad guy is Kirk technically.
Yeah. Oh
So he
yeah.
has to be sitting there and go, "Oh, Kirk's bad in this one."
You can tell because of the
Dad
eyeliner.
needs to know.
So we cut to like the halls, and Scotty is still with Kirk, and he's basically just like, okay, you go off to the med bay now. I'm gonna go do Scotty things.
Mm.
But instead of going to med bay, Kirk instead runs into Yeoman Rand,
I
who
This
is
woman
who is
cannot catch a break.
who is just sitting in Kirk's room. She's like at his desk in his bedroom. And I don't even remember what she says. It's like I don't know, she's got some like files for him or something. And she's just like, "Hi, okay, I was in your room. I'm going to get out of here now." And Kirk's like, "Wonderful. I'll take 7 naps and drink wine or something." I don't know. Like
Yeah.
it's just so weird that she is I don't know. I know that a yeoman is like the captain's assistant basically,
Hmm.
but it still feels like a weird like breach of conduct for her to just be like chilling in his room reading a book or whatever.
We
Like,
just
I don't get it.
expect something bad to happen in the person of authority's room with this young,
Yeah.
beautiful woman.
And then we cut
Which
to the
she doesn't.
medical. Sorry, go.
Something bad's gonna happen to Rand no matter where she is on the ship. Okay, it
Yeah.
doesn't. It doesn't matter.
So we cut to the medical bay where Bones is spraying Fisher's hand with the Fabuloso to heal it.
Hmm. Makes sense.
Because it's just a healing potion. Like that's all
Yeah.
it is. Is it's a
We live
it's
in
a,
the future.
it's a potion of greater healing in a Fabuloso bottle. And then Bad Kirk wanders in while this is happening and just starts yelling that he wants the brandy that I guess Bones keeps in his cabinet. He's just like, give me the. It's got some dumb name, but he's like something brandy.
Yeah.
And Bones grabs this like weirdly shaped bottle and hands it to him, and he just immediately starts downing it. And I do wonder if this is like a reference to the first Doctor, who was like a barkeeper. I
Right.
wonder if it's
From the pilot.
if oh god, I can't remember his name right now. The showrunner.
Roddenberry?
Yeah, I wonder if Roddenberry was just like, no matter what, the Doctor is going to be an alcoholic. He's going
Maybe.
to have alcohol just in the hospital.
It could be that, like, he lives in Medbay, right? So his.
Oh yeah, like his bed's there. It's possible. I guess we
Or
haven't. No, wait, no, because we've seen his quarters.
I think
We
he
saw
has
it in.
separate quarters.
We
Yeah,
saw
he
his
does have
quarters in
separate
Mantrap.
quarters.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So I think rather maybe it's just like a reference to old timey doctors having alcohol as like distilled
yeah.
stuff.
He's like,
I
drink
don't
this,
know.
you'll feel better in the morning. But Bad Kirk leaves the med bay, just like stumbling around and getting drunk in the halls, and he sees Yeoman Rand's quarters, and decides he's got to get in there. So he goes in, and it's the
Ooh.
exact same set as at least Kirk's quarters, possibly Bones from a previous episode, except that it has pink lights and like smeary, poorly made paintings just scattered around, so that you know it's a
Sure.
woman's room, I guess.
Yeah. We're definitely reusing rooms.
Yeah, which is like fair because it's a military ship,
Yes.
so like everything is probably
Yeah, everything's gonna look the same. It's
uniform.
cheaper just to change the lights
Yeah.
in this one.
Fortunately, Rand is not in her room, so he just like wanders around and looks creepy. And then we cut to Spock, who joins Kirk in his own quarters, where Kirk is, for seemingly no reason, shirtless with like a towel around his neck or something.
Yeah, it's in Shatner's contract. He gets to show off his physique every
He
episode.
has to get at least one slutty shoulder out every episode, or we cannot have an episode.
Will any other captain match Kirk's sluttiness? I doubt it.
God, I hope so. I hope Picard is just getting his abs out every episode.
All right, Picard can be slutty. All right, he can get it done. We'll get there.
So Spock says that Bones sent him to check on Kirk, and he was because he was acting weird and was drinking and whatever. And Kirk's like, "No, I've been here the whole time, drinking in my own water. I don't know, taking a shower, I guess, because I'm shirtless now." And Spock's like, "Okay, I'm gonna get out of here."
Pops the eyebrow to it. He's like, "I will note that for later, and I will leave."
Yes, Captain. Okay, goodbye. And he said he it's weird because he's like, okay, I'm gonna go get back to work then. Okay, see you later. And then literally the next scene is them just together, like they've left to go somewhere together. When Spock very clearly is like, okay, bye, see you never.
Because Scotty has something to show them.
Yeah, the next scene is good Kirk and Spock go to Scotty, who's like, hey, so we beamed up the dog, and now I have a good dog and an evil dog. I have this good dog that I'm holding and a bad dog in a box that I don't know, we have neglected to give treats or something. And he's barking at the camera.
What did they do to piss off this actor dog?
They just like were blowing
assume-
wind in his face.
Assume it's just a train to bark on command type thing, but it being an older show, gotta wonder, just they're hurling insults at this dog until it can't take it anymore. It just gets
Yeah.
mad.
I almost wonder if this scene was added as like an afterthought, because it doesn't really make sense in the path of, or like the chain of what happens here, because it's literally Spock is like, okay, I'm gonna leave without you now, and then they're together here, and then later they reiterate what we learn here a second time. So I almost wonder if they like threw this in just to like really hammer home, hey, the transporter made a second one.
Actually, thinking about it that way, I would say the shirtless Kirk scene may have been added later to reiterate, like, someone on board should have noticed Kirk was acting strange. Because the two dogs, are plot important later. Like that pays off, and
Yeah,
makes me wonder.
but if the second scene, if the shirtless scene was added, why would they like? They must not. If it was added later, they didn't know when they were going to add it because otherwise, it doesn't make any sense for Spock to say that he's leaving and then them be together in the next scene, like
Yeah,
literally in the next cut.
yeah.
I don't know. It's possible. Either way, there's something weird going on there.
Little editing snafu. It
And
happens.
an important thing to note is that Scotty is like it's not a duplicate. It's not like an evil twin. It's the opposite. This is the violent, mean one. And I don't really know how you can tell that from the dog, other than this one is barking and that one like he's making a lot of like jumps here, other than just like this was good, that one's bad. But whatever. We had to move the plot along so we could get to this next scene where Rand returns to her room to fix her weird beehive hair and is scared by evil Kirk.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "Hey, sweetheart, why don't you call me? You can call me Jim. You're so beautiful. I can't ignore your beauty no more." And he grabs her and just like fully tries to sexually assault her. It's
Yeah.
very rough. He forces her to kiss him and then he throws her to the ground.
Big.
And it's very heavily implied that like he's trying to go even further. And she scratches his face and he like gets pissy and runs away.
Just one of
Or
those
no,
big,
she gets to the door. Sorry, go for it.
You're just one of those big, old TV open mouth kisses.
Yeah, it's
Just, I'm gonna unhinge my jaw as wide as I can and just wrap my face around yours.
he kisses her like a boa constrictor would kiss a rat.
Yeah.
So she like gets away from him at one point, and the door opens, and of all people, Fisher, who fell earlier, is outside. And she's like, "Call Spock," and then like I don't know, Kirk gets past her and runs away basically. But before he does, he chases after Fisher and just beats his ass. He like just fully stomps the hell out of Fisher and then disappears into the ship somewhere.
Events.
So it's a pretty rough scene, honestly, and it's like, how are
Yeah,
they going
it's
to
super
handle this?
uncomfortable.
Will they do it well? Spoilers, no.
Well, I mean, depends on what you mean by well, because it's very uncomfortable.
Yeah, no, I just
He's
mean
pretty
like,
evil.
yeah, I guess he's definitely evil, but like, I don't know, the way that they handle I mean, it's literally like 2 scenes from now, but the way they handle talking to her about the situation is really, really bad. Like really,
Oh,
really
yeah,
bad.
yeah.
Anyway,
Because their first reaction
it's like, no, I didn't.
is to get Kirk, and
Yeah.
he's like, Captain, she's saying you assaulted her and wrestled her to the ground and wrapped your face around hers,
Yeah.
and he's like, odd, that doesn't sound like me.
I would never do such a thing. So the next scene is that Spock is talking with Good Kirk, and Kirk tells him that he's been resting in his room since Spock left, except that they were just looking at an evil dog together. So I guess not. I don't know. It's weird. Something is weird with like the order of these scenes here, and it just like doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. But then Spock is
Yeah,
like, he tells Kirk what Rand said and shows him the bottle of brandy that evil Kirk, who I'm gonna start calling Scratch from this point on because he's got a scratch on his face.
sure. I
So
will call them solid and liquid Kirk.
solid and liquid Kirk. So he shows him like the bottle of brandy, and he's like, "So we found this. There is another you. He's being a dick." And the two of them leave to go to Medbane for whatever reason. And as soon as they walk out of the room and take the elevator, and then there's a jump scare where Scratch like throws a bloody hand out in front of the camera, like just as they enter the elevator.
Yeah.
And then he sneaks into Kirk's quarters and starts like all but literally licking his wounds, like he's hiding in the corner like a wounded coyote. So then we get to the most uncomfortable scene of the entire episode for me, which is Bones, Spock, and Kirk are talking to Rand about what happened.
Yeah.
And she's explaining what happened, and she's like crying and her makeup's messed up, and like they've clearly like done her up to make her look like she's been through something terrible, because she has. And she's sitting in a chair where these three men are standing around her in like a half circle, and the three people are her abuser and her abuser's two best friends.
Or alleged abuser.
And sure,
Well,
and
even different than that, like all three are her superior officers.
yes, and none a
Like,
woman.
the captain, the ship's second officer, and then the ship's
Doctor.
number one doctor. Yeah.
And she's explaining what happens, and Kirk is like, "Well, it couldn't have been me. You see, you didn't scratch my face. My face is still fine. I'm okay."
Yeah.
And everyone
You
basically
you've gone from
they
you've
just
gone
like
from
gaslight her.
Shatner. That's a Shatner impression that has like bled into like a Alec Guinness Obi-Wan Kenobi
It's all the same. It's
impression.
all the
That's
same
what
to me.
it's done.
I'm just bad at impressions. No, but
No, it's fine.
it's basically just like they basically like gaslight her into being like, "Don't tell anybody." And then she's literally at one point says that she will not tell anybody to like protect Kirk. And I'm like, this is disgusting. Like this is horrendous that this is the direction that this scene has gone.
Yeah.
Like there are no women in this room. No one is really like taking her seriously.
Yeah.
She's been through something horrendous and they've decided to just I don't know. This is really like so far the most incredibly mishandled thing of the entire show. And we're only 6 episodes in, so maybe they'll get worse, but we'll see.
Yeah, the important things to keep in mind here is this was a long time ago,
This was the
a-
60s.
and which it was the 60s is over the course of the show is going to become a point of like defense for the show and a point of condemnation. Like,
Yeah. This is definitely the latter where it's
yeah,
like how
but
did you think
but
that
I
this was an okay situation? Like cuz they're trying to paint Kirk as like oh he's a good leader, like he's handling the situation well. He's explaining like no, I couldn't have done it. See, my face isn't scratched. But
yeah.
there's at no point are any of them like understanding or compassionate. Like they handle it very like and here's
Yeah.
why you're wrong.
Yeah, that's very much comes to the fact that the mindset of putting this scene together, like, what do we know? Well, we know Kirk didn't do it. And and we don't know what happened exactly, but we know for a fact Kirk didn't do it, and they just don't like the views of like a woman in this position trying to say that this horrible thing happened to her chain of command,
Yeah.
basically. It didn't like cross the minds of the writers or the people on production,
Is there
like
not
just the way
like
it's framed, especially her like sitting down while everyone's standing around her.
yeah,
Body language is a little creepy.
it's
Um,
aggressive. Yeah.
yeah.
And it makes you wonder like is there no HR on this ship? Like is there nobody
Well, they need to,
are these the people who should be handling this situation?
well,
Because
remember,
I don't think so.
Gene Roddenberry said in this vision of the future, there are no real like interpersonal like fights or problems. Like everyone gets along. We've done away with the need for HR years ago. I didn't know that an evil version of the captain was gonna SA a woman on board.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess. I don't know. Isn't that what what's her name is in the next generation though? Isn't she basically HR?
Oh, Deanna Troy.
Yeah.
She's a counselor. Yeah, I guess like she's as close to HR as we're gonna get. I think.
Okay. Fair enough. They should they should probably get some HR on this ship is all I'm saying. Cuz if this is not
She's
the
also
only
like
this is already like the second or third time that Rand has been harassed in we're 6 episodes in.
Deanna Troy is also basically psychic though, so that would have solved a lot of things faster.
You know,
Anyways.
honestly. Anyway, so the real takeaway from this scene, in terms of like moving the plot forward, is just that now we all know that there's an imposter Kirk, right?
Yeah.
And we get to the second commercial break. The captain's log here basically just tells us, "Hey, remember Sulu and the landing team? They're still down on the planet, and it's getting cold, and they will die if they aren't beamed up. But we can't because we don't want to make an evil twin of them."
Man, poor Sulu in this episode. We see him and like the four dudes that just got left behind because the transporter got messed up.
Yeah,
They're just like got blankets over them and they're huddling around rocks they're heating up with
with their phasers. Yeah,
their phasers.
Sulu
And
is the star of this episode for me, genuinely.
absolute, because he's like the only one going through some real shit, and he's
Yeah.
like, Captain, any chance of us not freezing to death down here?
Hey,
Because we're gonna die.
could you
And
beam us
then
up and
Kirk,
maybe just deal with the evil twins later?
Kirk gets on the radio and he's like, not yet, Sulu. Give us like another hour." And
We'll figure it
Sulu's
out.
like, "Oh yeah, fine."
Oh, yeah, easy
like,
for you to say. I bet you're the
like
evil one.
he's cracking sarcastic jokes as like, they're all gonna die.
Um,
Terrible.
so at this point,
Love it.
Kirk starts acting meek, but he starts acting meek by like 60 standards, by which I mean he feels bad at the idea that his men are dying down on the planet. And
Yeah,
has decided and is showing literally any emotion, which means he is the softest soy boy of the 60s.
maybe a little bit.
It's just a really toxic episode. Kirk gives it like an address to the ship. He goes over the PA, and he's like, "Hey, just so you know, there's an imposter. He's got scratches on his face. He looks exactly like me, except with scratches on his face. He's awful. Don't let him anywhere near you. If you see him, shoot him." And then Spock comes in and he's like, "You should probably tell them to stun him." And he's like, "Oh yeah, hey, if you see me, stun me. Don't shoot me for like to kill."
Yeah, it's another thing. His ability to make decisions is like disappearing,
That's what they
and
keep
he's
saying.
not.
I think that they do a really piss poor job of like making that clear in this episode, where it's not like it's less that he makes poor decisions, it's and more that he just like feels bad about it. Like he just like has emotions
It
now,
it
and it's
it
like, how dare you?
does it does become a thing in the second half of the episode where it's not that he's bad at making decisions, it's he stops making decisions.
Right, but then he just like does
It
again, right? I mean, we'll get there.
after yeah.
So Scratch is throwing a fit in Kirk's quarters, and he starts yelling, "I'm Captain Kirk," and making weird ass faces. And we get a really good shot of his guy liner I wrote here in the notes.
Yeah.
And then he just goes to Kirk's bathroom and puts on the the makeup that covers his scratches that's already sitting on the counter, as if Kirk was expecting to get scratched by Rand and needed to have a alibi for how he got away with a sexual assault.
I think that's a bit of a jump. I think it's easier to say that Kirk just wears makeup.
I mean, I guess, but like, I don't know. It's real convenient for him to be like, "See, I couldn't have done it because I don't
I
have a
am
scratch, but then also I have makeup on my counter already out, prepared to
no,
cover
no,
this
no,
scratch."
no.
What
I'm
I'm
not
saying
shocked.
I think there's not actually an evil Kirk, and this is all Bones and Spock and
Oh,
Kirk colluding to hide Kirk getting drunk and trying to
oh
assault Rand.
no. I don't like that.
Yeah,
I am gonna continue with what I was saying. Is just I'm not shocked that the slutty captain has slutty makeup. I don't think that should
that's
be
fair too.
surprising at
I mean,
all.
that is a good point. Anyway, Scratch opens the door and he's not wounded anymore. So he asks a guy whose name is apparently Wilson, according to my notes,
Hmm.
if he can have his gun. And Wilson's like,
Yeah,
"Yeah,
okay.
okay." And then Scratch just beats the hell out of Wilson and now also has a gun.
I put in my
Sorry,
notes here.
phaser.
I put in my notes. This Wilson guy needs to be fired
He needs to be
because
fired really fast.
they make an announcement, like a ship-wide alert. They're like, "Hey, if you see the captain and he's acting weird, that's not the captain. Don't
Shoot him.
don't give him a gun."
Yeah.
Like the second after that happens, from this Wilson dude's POV, a door opens and a Kirk with like a barely covered scratch on his face pokes his head out. And he's like, "You there, Wilson? Give me your gun." Wilson's like, "I don't see why not. Fire this guy."
Oh, sure. Yeah, here's my gun. You can just take this. Whatever, do whatever you want. We cut back to Sulu on the cold planet. He's shivering and has a blanket over his head, I think, at this point, and all the guys are just like not doing well. Kirk and Spock are made aware of the fact that Wilson got his ass beat, and so now
So
they're like, "Okay, Scratch has a gun. Great."
so okay, let me ask this because maybe I'm forgetting. At this point, they're simply not beaming Sulu up because they think like what they'll all get split again.
Yeah, they're not beaming them up for the exclusive purpose of they don't want the evil version of those four guys to be running around the ship. So, and I guess they are willing to let them die rather than have other people
Just capture everyone.
just throw them in the jail. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, that's a bit odd.
it's
And because I
it's
made
not
a
great.
I made a like I was thinking while watching this episode because it's obviously that is the ticking clock element. We can't beam them up and they're starting to freeze to death. But as the episode continues, and spoilers, as it concludes,
Yeah.
eventually we just beam them up, and I'm like, when did it? I must have missed when it got solved, the beaming problem, because
Yeah.
it became a thing where they're like, Kirk, make the decision. So like, well,
Yeah.
decide to beam them up. What are you
So
talking
in
about?
a minute here, they get a real reason why they can't beam them up, but up until this point, it's literally we don't want an evil Sulu, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, but Spock asks Kirk, he's like, "Hey, there's an evil you running around. Where would you go if you wanted to be evil?" And he's like, "I would run around in the lower levels because that show's bad. Uh, I would run
That
around on the
sounds
lower
evil.
decks because the lower decks are bad." And he says specifically engineering or something, and they're like, okay, because that's where I would be able to go and avoid all the patrols that I guess are walking around. Although our patrols are, as we found out from Wilson, not great anyway.
Yeah, no, Wilson sucks.
So they go. So Spock and Kirk go to engineering, where they find Scratch jumping around on the top of cabinets, like again, like a cat, and he jumps down.
Yeah. It's a little Phantom of the Opera as well.
It's a little bit. He like
He's
jumps
just
down between two.
scurrying around. He's even got the
Yeah.
scarred face.
Yeah, his makeup is like I guess worn off. Like you can still very clearly see his scratches through his makeup at this point. And Scratch starts stalking Kirk, and then they have a stare down where Kirk is like, "We need each other," and Scratch is like, he's just basically just like the most mundane conversation of like, "We need each other." No, we don't. And like, but in a weird evil, I'm evil now voice. I don't know.
Yeah.
And he like backs Scratch up into a corner where Spock like jumps out and hits him with the Vulcan nerve pinch or whatever, which
Yeah.
does take down Scratch, but also causes him to pull the trigger on his phaser, which blows up some machine that makes it so that they can't do transporter stuff anymore.
That's right. Okay. So I wrote down Kirk v. Kirk shadow match didn't last because actually
We had a run in.
one of my trivias that I have here is in the original script, Spock just comes in and like karate chops evil Kirk
Yeah.
to subdue him.
Yeah.
But it was Leonard Nimoy that said it was uncharacteristically violent for peace-loving Vulcans to do that. So that's when he invented the Vulcan nerve pinch. So in production, this is the first ever use of that.
Oh.
So that's kind of cool. I did write an extra note here that says I don't know where this peace-loving input was when Spock was double axe handling beating that woman
Yeah.
in episode 2, but
Hey,
that was also a monster alien in disguise. And
That
he
was a
proving
monster,
point.
it's
So that's
different.
fine. That's fine. That's fine.
So they take Scratch to medbay and tie him down, and Spock and Bones are talking to Kirk, and he can't make a decision anymore, I guess. So he's like, he doesn't have his evil half, and I guess the evil half is the half that makes it good to make decisions. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah. The quote they said was rapidly losing the power of decision, and I said he's just like me for real.
He's just like me for real. At which point Scotty comes over the cell phone, whatever. And was it the
Communicator.
tricorder? What's it called? Just communicator?
Yeah, it's just a communicator. The tricorder's a different thing.
Okay. And he's like, "Hey, your dumbass evil side shot this thing, and now I have to fix it." We cut back to Sulu, who's now wrapped up with the other people, and this is where he shoots the rocks to warm themselves up. And I'm like, "Oh, Sulu's
Yeah.
actually really smart. Like, this
Yeah.
is a good move." He does make jokes about like, "Hey, could we get some coffee down here?"
Yeah, he very
He's like, "Hey, room
sarcastically
service."
says like, yeah, we'd like some coffee and maybe beam us up anytime,
Or
Captain.
maybe let us
And,
not die. Wouldn't that be cool?
Kirk's just like, I don't know, man.
We
see
can't
what I can
anymore
do.
because the machine got shot, I guess.
Like Sulu, I feel has every right to hate his captain.
Here's
I
my
know
thing.
Kirk is going through something. He's split in half, but whatever.
Here's my thing here, right? They're freezing to death. We're the future. They're wrapped up in
Yeah.
like a tent. Can we not beam down something inanimate that can keep them warm, like a space heater or some coats?
No, not at the risk of making an evil space heater. That's the last thing you want on a planet like
I just
this.
don't get it. There's just a lot of like, just like, I get that Kirk is bad at making choices now, but like, Spock couldn't be like, what about some coats?
Well, the thing that got shot by Evil Kirk, that means we can't beam down coats, right?
Yeah, I guess. But like even up until that point, like there was just so little being done for these people. They were like, it'll be fine.
In
Sulu's
theory, though,
a C tier character anyway, I guess.
they should, and I think do have like a small transport vessel that they can.
Yeah, that's another
I know
thing.
other
I don't think
other
they've
like
established that they have that yet. They must not have,
fu-
because the fact that they're not
future
using it is
versions
egregious.
future versions of the Enterprise have that, and like other like the Voyager has one. I
Yeah.
know for a fact.
There's no way
You
that
would
you are
think
relying
that
exclusively on the transporter to like get goods on and off the ship. There's no shot. Anyway, Scotty's like, it's gonna take a week to fix the transporter, and I'm like, well, they'll be dead anyway. Third commercial break. At this
Can I
point,
just say something?
yeah,
I just want to say, if Sulu wasn't on the planet, they wouldn't even be talking about it. They
they
don't
just leave
care.
him. Yeah, they would just left him.
Yeah, like,
Le-
well, I guess we lost these guys.
Oops,
But the
sorry.
fact that Sulu's on there, they're like, ah, well, we should try,
Yeah.
but not try too hard,
At
as
this
we're
point,
seeing.
they keep saying that Kirk is indecisive, and I'm really not seeing it because he was making decisions perfectly fine right up until the point where he's not allowed to make decisions anyway because the machine is broken, so it doesn't matter.
Hmm.
It's apparently negative 75 degrees on the planet, and Sulu is like
I don't.
fully dying.
Yeah, I don't think some like hot rocks are going to help with that
No,
because they said negative. Like it's been progressively going down. First, it was like just like at absolute zero, and then it was -40, -75. Is that? Are they saying Fahrenheit?
I have to assume so. It's an American show.
Yeah, but like in space, don't they use like Kelvin?
Couldn't tell you.
I want to say that -75 Kelvin is very bad.
I mean, negative 75 Fahrenheit's really bad too.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
You know what? I'm gonna Google how long you can survive in -75 while
Not
we continue.
long. Add the multiplier. I'm wrapped in a beach tent, uh, and we'll see. Anyway, so Scratch is in medbay and he's screaming like he's dying, which I still to this day do not know if he was doing that just to troll or if he was actually dying. It's unclear. So Kirk goes to hold Scratch's hand and like pep talks him into not dying, but he's basically, but he says that he like it's a pretty homoerotic. He's like, I need you inside me.
Hmm.
I need you in me to help me make good choices.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hey, you know, if someone saw a bad boy screaming and said that, like, if I had a nickel for every time someone said that, you know.
maybe he should have just put the eyeliner on. You know, I think maybe that would have done it.
So according to this, I mean, the closest thing I could find is -100 degrees Fahrenheit.
Sure.
According to this, assuming you're just wearing normal clothes, which more or less they were,
Yeah.
you'd become hypothermic almost immediately and die within an hour.
Oh, sick. So they're like definitely
So,
dead.
yeah, but they got hot
They
rocks.
got hot rocks and the tent.
So they have normal clothes and hot rocks. So
Yeah.
they, you know,
What is
give them a
what
second.
does your FAQ say about hot rocks?
It does not mention hot rocks.
See, we got to throw it out then. So Bones brings Kirk a drink, and he basically also reiterates like, hey, we got to get you two together again. This breakup's hurting all of us. And Kirk is called to the transporter, which makes Scratch smile for some reason. I don't know.
He's a weird dude. He's not just like an evil version. He's pretty clinically insane.
He's wild. He's a wild man.
There's also, you know what? Let's talk about this for a second. The implication, because it is Kirk, like
Yeah.
it's split, and maybe that's what that line about like it's not just a duplicate, it's the opposite,
Yeah.
is supposed to be, so that we're not walking away from this episode thinking like, oh, all that, you know, R word stuff he was doing earlier,
Yeah.
that wasn't in Kirk the whole time,
That's
was
the
it?
exact opposite. He couldn't have done that.
Okay,
He would have done the opposite.
okay,
Uh,
okay. He would have not.
he
That's
would
good
have.
to know.
Yeah. Good. Great. Wonderful. Even. It's super weird to have this like back to back with the previous episode which was the naked time.
Yes.
Where his like big reveal was like, I do kind of have eyes for Rand. I wish that I could make out with her. and then the next episode is like this.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just thinking like, Rand needs a new job, like badly.
Yeah. Yeah, she does.
Anyway, so they go to the transporter, and Scotty grabs the bad dog so they can trank him. By which I mean transform him into a stuffed animal.
I laughed. So okay, the dog dies. Very sad. You hate to see
They
it, but
transport him down to the planet, and they transport him back, and that's how they plan to like fuse them back together. But when they bring them back, he's dead.
it's just a stuffed animal slumped on its side. Just
Yeah,
completely. I mean, not a dead thing wouldn't move, but the way it wasn't moving and the way its little legs were just sticking out like a little stuffed dog, I
yeah.
laughed. It was really funny.
And Bones has the audacity to say he's dead, Jim, to this
But
stuffed
that's what he
animal.
says. Come on,
To
he's
this
just what he said.
stuffed animal.
He's dead. His little dog. That dog's been as big a part of this episode as any other character.
I guess. Anyway, they decide that the dog has died of shock. They're like, oh, the actual, transporting medically shouldn't have killed him. He just got really spooked and died. And so Bones and Spock start fighting over whether or not Kirk should do it, because they're like, well, Kirk will handle it better, like, emotionally, and so I guess he won't die. And Bones is like, you can't prove that. Like, we're guessing. And Spock's like, no, it'll probably be fine.
Yeah.
I don't know, dude. I feel like that almost should be backwards, where I feel like Spock should be the one arguing of like, you don't know that he'll survive this. We can't sacrifice the captain of this ship. I would rather we not do it and just let Sulu die. And Bones should be the one who's like, no, our doctor has a good heart, or our captain has a good heart, and he'll do great, and it'll be awesome. I feel like their positions are swapped.
That's true. Although Bones is always the pessimist.
That's fair.
And you could also look at it in the sense where Spock, who it hasn't said it yet, but in the future will famously say the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. And so by inaction of this one man would cause the death of like 4 dudes on the planet. And if something doesn't happen, then
Yeah. Oh, I guess at some point they fixed the transporter, by the way, because they sent the dog down. I guess I missed that in my notes somewhere, but they must have fixed it. He said it was going to take a week, and then I guess it just didn't. I don't know.
that's what confused me. I was like,
Yeah, unclear.
Because now it's just like the indecision. It's killing me.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do. Do I beam them up or do I not? It's
But
like,
then he
well,
just kind of like does. This is my point, right?
beam them up, dude.
Yeah. So like this is my point, right? Because the next thing that happens is like, oh, we have to make this decision. The captain has to make this decision on his own, and he just does. He's like, I'm gonna do it.
Mm-hmm.
So like the whole time, so like the one time that he was maybe a little indecisive was during the time period where he couldn't have made a decision anyway, and then as soon as he can make a decision, he does.
A little bit, but that's because Kirk is strong.
He's very strong.
strong-willed.
I don't know. It's just like I don't think they do a very good job of like making him look weak, if that was the idea. Anyway, Sulu calls again, and he's just like fully dying. The other guys are unconscious.
They might be dead already.
I'm surprised they didn't swap them out with mannequins like they did with the frozen lady and the naked time, because they're like dead. Actually, I think it's implied that they live, but they're like asleep. They are gone. Kirk decides like, hey, we're gonna do it, and he's like grabbing Scratch to take him to the transporter to do the thing, and Scratch like pretends to faint and then just like knocks out Kirk and runs, I think.
Yeah, the exact wordage he used and what I wrote in my notes was, I won't fight you anymore. Immediately starts fighting.
Yeah. And he runs into Rand on the way to the bridge, and then just starts demanding that they leave orbit. He's like, I hate Sulu, let's get out of here. And everyone's like, wait, what? Are you sure? Like, I don't think we should do that, Captain.
There must have been one guy on the bridge like, me too, let's go.
Let's go. I hate Sulu and the other guys. And they do a who's the real bad guy thing here.
It's the one in eyeliner.
Because during the fight, Scratch has scratched Kirk's face, so now they both have scratches.
True.
And Kirk comes in, I think, with Spock, and is like looking mildly sad. And everyone's like, I don't know which one to shoot. Like they're basically doing that thing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But everyone like pretty much like Scratch just backs down immediately, and just starts like screaming, and he's like, "We gotta go! I don't want to go back," or something. I don't remember exactly what he was saying, but he starts doing like the
Yeah.
Kirk scream acting thing.
Yeah.
And so then I don't know. That whole scene is like kind of like it doesn't really go anywhere. And then they go to the transporter, and Kirk is hugging his stunt double. I guess like it's very clearly not Kirk at this point.
Yeah. It's a.
Which
It's
like
a.
it is fair. I mean, like it's the '60s. They didn't have another William Shatner standing around. But he's hugging a guy who is like not even the same height as him. Like I think he's like very clearly like 3 or 4 inches taller.
Yeah, he's built different too. It's
Yeah.
one of those things where, I mean, especially in 2024, you know how this kind of stuff works, and you're like, okay, well, that's a stunt double. You can't unsee it at that point, but
Yeah.
you also can't hold it against the show. Like, it's
Yeah, it's
not
the
their
'60s.
fault.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
only so much they can do. Like they do a lot of split screen stuff, and actually, whenever the two are on screen at the same time, they do a really good job of it. Like you can't, or at least I couldn't see like the seam that you can see sometimes when, like in old
Mm,
shows, when they have to do this sort of thing. I think they
mm.
did genuinely a really good job. But when you have one guy hugging himself, like the '60s way of doing the split screen thing, like you can't do that. So this is the best they could
Yeah.
do, and it's not terrible, but it is like that's definitely a different guy.
Yeah.
So honestly, I think the effects in this are like pretty
It,
good. I
it
think they
did
did a
make me
good job.
laugh too, because when they're when they're getting into the transporter to fuse together, like they waddle him up there, and like Kirk's holding on to him, and Spock even says, "You'll have to hold on to him tight, Captain." And, like, make sure his face doesn't go towards the camera.
You better, you better
That's what,
cover his face because that
exactly.
guy's actually more handsome than you.
Ooh,
Uh,
can't have that.
anyway, they beam him down and beam him back, and he's totally fine. It's a pretty easy fix. And then as soon as they do that and they are able to fuse the two people together, uh, they then
They beam him down to the planet, to the
that's the
cold planet?
implication. Yeah, because I don't know where else they would beam him to.
So Kirk comes back and he's like, "God damn, it's cold down
Wow,
there. Get our boys up."
it is so cold down there. Here's the other thing, right? Okay, so they've already fixed the transporter, right? At this
Yeah,
point,
yeah. Now they're just
does
waiting for Captain's orders. Is that what's?
does fusing Kirk back together take precedent over beaming up Sulu? Because if the thing is fixed, just beam him up. Like if we've gotten the mustard ore or whatever out of the transporter, so
That
it can beam people up without making copies of them. Like we
Yeah.
already know that it works because we did it with the dog.
That's what confused me, because there's this whole narrative of like making decisions. Kirk can't make decisions, and the decision seemingly at the end here is to let our guys not die. Like, push the button.
Yeah,
And
like it's not a
it's
hard choice.
yeah, that's why I was like, wait a minute.
Anyway, so they bring him back. He's fine. So they're like, get those men back on this ship or whatever, like really fast.
It implies
They
it
get him back
implies
up
that
and everything's good.
that Scotty's not allowed to just be like, "Oh, Captain, I beamed the guys up so they wouldn't die."
Yeah. What the? I don't know, dude. And then the episode ends in a way that also kind of annoys me, where Rand goes up to Kirk to like apologize, and then Spock gives her a hard time, like, "See, I told you it couldn't be the real Kirk," and I'm like, "Bro, get out of here!
That
Get
did
out of
that
here!"
did kind of skeeve me out a little bit too, because I don't know what the actual intention was supposed to be, but Spock gives this look to her like, "You liked it, didn't you?" It's like, wait a minute.
He's just
Wait a fucking Spock would not.
he would not, and he should not, and it's awful. I don't know. It's weird. It's really weird. I The episode's not terrible, but they handle this situation so badly that like
There's
I don't know,
there's
dude.
inconsistencies. There's like a lot of inconsistencies in this one.
It's really really weird. Anyway, that's the end of the episode. So I don't know. What are your thoughts? How you feeling?
Um, I think out of our rating system, this is going to be the first one I give an illogical to.
Okay. All right.
I think you've given an illogical to one already.
I gave
I
it
don't
to
remember which
Charlie
one.
X.
Right. Oh, Charlie. I thought, I gave that one an engage. And I was thinking, well, like, oh, which grade do I give this one? Because there's other episodes that I feel like, I don't know, are worse made than this one that I gave a passing grade to.
Yeah.
But to the point where, and again, it had me questioning how stupid I am. Where I'm like, did I miss something? Why can't they just? I'm confused. but after talking about it here, I think it was just dumb.
Yeah.
So,
I think it was just
so
not
yeah,
particularly well
I'm gonna give
written
this one.
and a little
It's
confusing.
it's not like this isn't an episode you need to skip while watching them or by any means, but
It's it's not one that you would need to skip, no, but it is one where, like, if I was trying to convince somebody to watch Star
this
Trek
isn't.
the original series, if they'd be like, if they were going to put on a random episode and this was the one that came up first, I'd be like, not this one.
No, roll again. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like, no. We're going to watch
Yeah,
pretty much anything
watch
else of the first six.
watch Charlie X instead.
Ugh. Maybe. Honestly? Yeah, I guess. I would also give this an illogical because of that exact reason. It's like, if I was going to recommend, like, a place to start or episodes to watch or whatever, I would leave this one out very, very intentionally because I feel like it doesn't do a good job of, like, showing off what Star Trek is about. It's not
Yeah.
written in a very consistent way that makes sense. This is one of the ones where, like, it being from the 60s is most egregious and, like, not very good. I don't know.
Mm.
This is going to be my second illogical. I think it's the only option here.
Yeah, we talk about how like the main problems for the episodes, lots of them are godlike alien beings or scary aliens. The last episode before this was a space disease.
Yeah.
The problem here is a scientific malfunction, which is interesting, and it leads to what is supposed to be like thought-provoking discussion of like two halves of a man, you need balance. It
Yeah.
doesn't really play that way. I feel like how it should. And I will say, yes, Shatner does like the big, 60s, uh, I'm acting louder, therefore I'm acting more powerful.
Yeah.
But I like him in this episode. Like he's not
He's a lot of fun other
evil.
than that one scene.
I was gonna say, like I said earlier, he's not evil. He's crazy. That's different.
Yeah.
But I think he's entertaining. That's about it. Given it a logical, I have one more trivia fact.
Do it.
Um,
Go for it.
this one is about Scotty, my main man,
Uh-oh.
Scotty.
Oh, boy.
So for those who don't know, James Doohan, who plays Scotty, was a soldier in World War II.
Oh, no way.
And he was at D-Day. He was on the beaches in the D-Day invasion, and during the invasion, he took either a bullet or a piece of shrapnel to one of his fingers on his right hand, I think. Yeah, his right hand. So he does not have a middle finger on his right hand.
Oh.
And this episode is one of the only times you can kind of see it. And once you realize, because like I read that trivia before watching the episode, and so I was kind of keeping an eye on it. Once you realize that, once you're basically watching that hand of his, you kind of notice how much they hide the fact that he doesn't have that finger. In
Mm.
theory, it's nothing like too big of a deal. Like, oh, this actor just doesn't have that finger, whatever. But I think it must be some sort of like questioning of like, oh, in the Star Trek future, they can't regrow your finger, something like that. I have
Oh.
no idea.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Because I was going to
And
say, like, it's weird to hide that, but you're right.
yeah, and I guess it being the middle finger, there's no like passing like looking prosthetic you can give
Can't
that
just
like blends in really
throw a
well.
sausage in there.
Yeah, yeah, something like that. But when he goes to grab the snarling dog when they sedate it to put the two in the transporter, if you like go really slow, frame by frame, you can see the hand that he's missing his finger on. Um,
Huh.
but
That's really interesting.
yeah, interesting man, interesting guy, war hero from the sounds of it.
Way to go.
Our episode today is called Mud's Women.
Mud's Women. This is about women who are married to the earth. They are the women of
Uh,
mud.
they're very muddy. No, these women, in fact, are not muddy at all.
Yeah. Hey, would you consider, this is off track, would you consider Diana Wonder Woman Themyscira as Mud's women because in some of her stories she's made out of dirt?
She's a clay woman.
Yeah. Well, Clay's
She's
kind of mud.
made of clay. Yeah.
Huh?
The difference is Diana's out the mud, but these women get in the mud.
True. This is a fun one. It's weird,
Yeah.
but it's a fun one. I mean, we'll get into it. Um,
Yeah.
but
Um,
it's a fun one.
yeah, let's jump into it now.
Okay. So, Mud's Women starts with the Enterprise tailing a cargo ship of some kind that's trying to lose them. So they're kind of playing like space traffic cops at the beginning of this episode, which is interesting. I didn't know the Enterprise cared to do that.
If they
Um,
see any discrepancies, they're gonna step in.
yeah, I guess that makes sense. Because specifically they're like, oh, it doesn't have its like transponder beacon or something. Like it's supposed to have some kind of identification like
Yeah.
thing that you can scan on it, and it doesn't have it. So they're like, oh, what's going on with this cargo ship?
I guess it's the equivalent of a Navy ship spotting like a pirate ship, right?
Mm,
Like in real life, that's really what it comes across as. So they're like, this there's some crazy characters out here. It's our job to step in and make sure they're not causing any trouble.
yeah. And then Kirk asks Spock, of all people, if it's an Earth ship, which feels weird because A, he's the only one there who's presumably not from Earth. And B, it's like, does that imply that humans are only on Earth? Like we haven't colonized other planets yet?
Well, no, we've colonized, and I mean, a couple of the colonies that we've gone to so far in well, I guess they're not really colonies, but like working I don't want to say working camps, that sounds scary. But
Mm.
like
Like the one we see in
certain
this
like
one. They're
yeah,
human, obviously.
yeah. I would call that a very, very, very small colony.
Yeah. Maybe he just meant it in the same way that people are like, oh, is that a German car?
Spock comes in and he's like, "Ah, humans at it again, huh?" It's like, "All right, Spock, settle down."
All right, dude. Anyway, the cargo ship tries to lose them by going into an asteroid field, that old trick, but it doesn't go well and their engines almost immediately overheat.
Yeah, I want to jump in and say something
Yeah.
really quick. Um, why is Uhura wearing yellow?
Yeah. I have that in my notes a little bit past here. It just says Ahura in yellow question mark. She's barely like she doesn't I don't think say anything in this episode. So it
No,
doesn't
she's not very
really
involved in
matter.
this one.
But yeah, I will say like obviously I immediately recognized that as her, but I was like, is she being dressed differently to blend into the background because she doesn't matter in this episode? Like is that what's going on?
No, that can't be it. I don't know what would have caused that other than they hadn't worked out what the color uniforms meant yet. Well,
Oh, so
that can't be true.
I feel like
So
everyone
so
else is pretty
maybe
consistent. Like Sulu is always
yeah,
wearing yellow,
yeah. So
at least so
maybe
far.
they decided to change it, but then changed it back. No idea. Maybe her red shirt got a stain on it or something, ruined somehow.
Right. It got one really big
Spilled
mustard stain across the
just
entire thing.
spilled coffee on it. Oh yeah, so they just poured mustard all over her to make it
Yeah.
yellow shirt. Like problem solved.
Can you imagine? She's just walking around
Yeah.
stinking of Dijon.
Yes, I can imagine it.
You've done it. So their engines overheat and are they're seconds from getting destroyed by an asteroid. So Kirk makes the decision to extend their deflector shields to encompass the other ship,
Mhm.
which someone warns him is like, okay, well that's gonna overheat our engines too because it's very far away. Um, which like I don't know, just get closer, I guess is what I would say. But whatever. So they do that, and they're still trying to like get into contact with the ship because they won't respond to anything. And while they're doing that, the lights keep like flashing on and off, and they're like, ah, another battery died. Our
Yeah.
lithium crystal exploded, and then finally they you get a response from the other ship, and they beam over uh, the very first person who is a portly musketeer like Shakespeare in the Park knockoff looking dude.
Look at this absolute pirate.
This absolute unit.
He's like if you were attending a Halloween party as an old-timey pirate, that's this. That is him.
Yeah, and he talks kind of funny. He's like
He, he has like a faux Irish accent.
yeah, but it comes and goes too.
Yeah, well, we learn in a little bit that it's fake. He very quickly drops it when he gets cornered in an interrogation in a bit. But yeah, he's doing this whole Irish shtick, and he introduces himself as Leo Walsh, which is, as we'll learn, also not his name.
Yeah. He's also got a toupee like shoved into the collar of his shirt, so it's just like it's clearly not his real chest hair, the actor's real chest hair. They've just
Oh, you
like
think so?
glued some really bad looking chest hair to almost his neck. Like it's like
He,
there's a clear separation between where
I
they've
don't
glued it
know.
and his chest.
He might just be hairy. You ever seen Sean Connery?
He is a hairy guy. He is
You
a
ever seen
hairy guy.
Robin Williams?
Maybe that's what it is he was like, I'm pretending to be Irish, so I gotta be hairier.
Gross.
Anyway, the guy's like, oh, we got 3 more people over there. You got to beam them on over. And so they start doing that. But while they're doing it, the other ship gets hit by an asteroid and explodes. And so these 3 other people that they're beaming over are kind of just like for a second in limbo, I
They're
guess.
they're mid transport, so they're atomized. It's
Yeah,
not instantaneous.
I don't know, man. I don't know. It doesn't end up mattering because they end up coming over perfectly fine, and they are 3 presumably incredibly beautiful women in Powerpuff colored girls
They are
dresses.
Powerpuff colored.
They are the Powerpuff Girls.
In my in my notes, I wrote down hottie bombadis.
I I did, and then when I rewatched it recently, I was like, they're not really that hot. Like they're
I
attractive, but they're not like they're not like, oh my god, whoa, ooh, wowie zowie, eyes pop out of my head like a
I think
cartoon wolf.
I think what they are beautiful women. I think what's making you say that is everyone's overreaction to them. Bones' eyes are popping out like a cartoon
He's
wolf.
following her. He follows the one girl around like she's a pie on a windowsill.
He's like drooling all over himself. It's nuts.
Yeah, Bones and Scotty like cannot speak for the first little while when they beam over because you know they're too hot. The cats have their tongue, so to speak.
And you know what's funny about that as we progress through the episode, this is kind of a spoiler. Like so the way they're reacting, you would think it's something like our Salt Vampire episode
Right.
where they're being telepathically like convinced that this is the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. I can't control myself. That's not the case though. Like they are beautiful and there is something afoot, but
Mhm.
they're just women.
They're
Like
just women.
Bones's reaction is his normal reaction. He's just horny.
I don't know if this is an insane thing to say. I don't think any of the 3 of them are more attractive than Ahura.
It's interesting you say that because one of my little trivias that I've got here that I'll give to you now is about one of our hotties here, the one in blue, whose name was
Bubbles.
Maggie, I think. They
I think
have
that's right. I
there's
only
one
remember the
normal
main
name.
girl,
There's one normal
Miss
name, and then
McCurran.
there's a couple strange ones. Anyways, the one in blue for sure
Yeah.
was an actual Playboy centerfold.
Huh.
Yeah.
She did seem like the most attractive of the 3.
Um, the I was looking at the credentials of these 3 women, and 2 of them were like I mean they've all done like television spots, but like 2 of them were like smaller actresses, while the main one, the one wearing pink,
Right.
Blossom, if you will,
Blossom was an actress.
she had a lot more spots on stuff. It looked like.
That makes sense. That actually makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
Um. So yeah. So Kirk comes over the loudspeaker at that point, and he's like, "Spock, bring those idiots to my cabin. I'm gonna yell at them."
Yep.
Uh.
And when he meets him, Kirk is the only one like not completely entranced by these women,
Yeah.
which
Well, first,
implies that is that just because he gets women all the time?
like maybe I don't know,
He's
but
just
but
like I'm
first
used to it.
on the way there, they're like walking there, and everyone's staring at them because, of course, they're very hot and they're sashaying in such a way that no one can look away. But they get in the elevator, and Leo, I guess at this time,
Yeah.
is like, "Oh, don't bother trying to seduce the Vulcan. He can't get a boner.
He doesn't have a penis.
He's got no penis. His penis is on his side. It is not where you think it would be.
That is not true, Captain. I do have a penis.
I actually have 2 penises."
Is the reaction because of what they're wearing? Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, it's a bit
Because it's like really
provocative, very
shiny.
colorful. Like they have like chest windows, one of them at least. You know.
Yeah, so the girl in green has like some slits going down it that are like,
Excuse you.
I'm sorry, that's what they're called. But she's wearing like what is effectively sort of like a maxi dress, but then it's cut off at the knees, but like it's maxi style, so it's very tight. It's like a pencil dress, and then it's got a couple of cutouts, let's say, going down in like a diagonal, so it's a little bit revealing. The main girl, Miss McCurran, is just wearing basically a normal ass red dress, but it's shiny, like a cocktail dress almost. And the Playboy centerfold, Bubbles, it's like a poncho. Like it looks like she's wearing somebody's oversized sweatshirt and like shorts underneath that you can't see. Like it has the same vibe as that thing, you know?
Interesting that they hire a Playboy centerfold and they put her in the baggiest clothes.
They put her in the least revealing.
Least revealing, yeah.
Which is surprising. Maybe they were like, well, she's a centerfold, so this amount of her skin is worth that amount of their skin, or something stupid.
I do think her dress is the shortest, though.
It is, yeah. She's very leggy.
Anyways,
yes.
Just talking about these women's figures.
But mostly the dresses. But
To be fair, that's what the episode is so far.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. But so they get to Kirk's quarters, and he turns around and he's like, oh, hey, oh. And first he only sees Big Boy Leo and McCurran, and the other two walk in, and he's like, oh, my God. What's happening here? And so he's like, oh, are these your crew? And then Leo goes, well, no, these are me cargo.
Okay, we've officially entered
cargo.
human trafficking territory here.
Yes. I mean, it ends up being a little less nefarious than that, but yes, it's basically, I mean, it is literally human trafficking, but at least it's not like
less
the people being trafficked are in on it, so it's
yeah,
not,
we're aware, so, but it still doesn't seem very kosher to me. I'm going to keep calling him a pirate and not a pimp, but
I mean, it's not, it's somewhere in between.
A man is peddling flesh, so I don't know about all this.
After a little commercial break, we get Leo Walsh, and he's like upset. He's not yelling at Kirk, but he's trying to like big dog him.
Yeah.
And he tells him that it's his fault that his ship got destroyed, because he's like, well, why'd you chase me into the asteroid belt? This is not how he talks, but it's how I've chosen to vocalize him.
Kind of close for now, yeah.
So he's basically just like, oh, you chased me in the asteroid belt, like this is your fault. I think he's basically trying to like maneuver the Starfleet to give him a new ship or something. Like maybe that's what his plan is.
Yeah, he's trying to charisma check everybody from the second he gets in the door, and that's his gimmick.
He rolls like a 2, and Kirk is like, no. Because Kirk hates him from like second one. There is no moment where Kirk is even remotely 100%. Fooled by Mud.
Have we talked about his mustache yet?
No, it's very foppish. I love it.
Man, you gotta look at this mustache.
It's a very thick curled mustache that you would. I mean, it's what you would see on like a musketeer.
Yeah.
Yeah, or the Quaker Oats guy.
The Pringles can.
The Pringles can. He's the Pringles pirate.
Yeah, a little bit.
Sulu and the helmsman, whose name I didn't write down, I think it's like Farrell or something.
Some guy, yeah.
Are walking around, and the helmsman is talking like he's drunk.
That's what I'm saying.
He's talking like, and he's like, you can feel their eyes on you. It's more than just attraction. And you're like, huh?
And I can't stress enough that they are just women.
They're just women.
Like the weird thing that's happening does not affect people around them. It affects them.
Yes.
So I don't know why they're doing this.
The helmsman is just very horny.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, they've got, maybe they still have a bit of that that disease.
Oh, from Naked Time?
Naked Time going through them a little bit. They haven't completely shaken it yet.
They've got that one. The helmsman has long naked time.
Ooh, oh, he wants to have a long naked time. With Mud's women.
With Mud's women. So Scotty tells Spock that there's only one lithium battery left, and that one has a crack in it. So they're like, we got to get new batteries, or we're screwed, my guy.
Yeah.
Like we're gonna fall out of the sky. Which isn't it dilithium crystals? Am I wrong?
All right, you've jumped the gun, but here we get to my next trivia thing that I have written down here.
Yeah.
So this episode and another episode we've already watched, Where No Man Has Gone Before,
right,
are the only episodes where the crystals that power the engines are called lithium instead of dilithium. They changed it to dilithium from here on out.
Are you proud that I knew that?
Yeah, a little bit.
Thank you. Thank you, my brother.
You know what? Should I have one more trivia? Should I save that to the end? I doubt you're
Uh,
gonna guess that one.
okay, yeah, save it then and see if I
Okay.
somehow know it.
Okay. If you do, I'll be fucking shocked.
Let me just quickly Google trivia for Mud's women. Um, something I want to bring up here though. They're like blowing out their lithium crystals or whatever, doing this one
You
seemingly
could call
pretty
them
basic maneuvers.
you could call them dilithium if you want.
Either
We're
way,
not.
so they're like blowing out their energy source, doing
Yeah.
just putting the shield around a small ship that's a little bit further away from them.
Hmm.
If it is that easy to blow up these power sources, why do we not have replacements on board?
Um. Maybe we do. Maybe these are the replacements. These are the spare tires.
These are the space tires. We've been flying on donut this whole time.
Kirk. So Kirk kind of explains that the reason he did it was,
Well, he couldn't
he
just
made
let them die.
yeah, he made a snap judgment to it's save them or don't risk ourselves, and he was like, well, I'm gonna save the people.
Yeah, no, he made the
Like
right
it's a
choice
very
for sure.
it's a very Kirk thing to do. And so it's safe to assume that he just does that all the time. He's just always like doing stuff that makes the ship explode, but he gets results, he saves the people.
Yeah. I actually really like Kirk in this episode, I'll be honest with you.
I do too.
I think this is the episode that we've watched so far where I like him most.
He's the most no nonsense here.
Yeah.
He hates this guy.
Hates this dude. So anyway, Kirk gets like called to the bridge to talk about the crystals or whatever, and we go to it's some just like random conference room or meeting room where they're holding the Powerpuff Girls and Leo.
Mhm.
And he's talking Leo. I'm just gonna call him Mud. We know he's Mud at this point.
Yeah.
He's talking to the girls, and they're like freaking out because they're like, "Oh, we're not gonna get to the place where we're supposed to be going," and whatever. And then one of them calls him Harry, and he goes, "Oh no, I'm Leo, not Harry, Leo."
Yeah.
He's doing like a Miss Doubtfire voice in my mind, apparently.
A little bit.
And I think it's hilarious because they're having this like the reason that he's trying to cover is because there's two guards like in the room, but they're also just fully talking about like these are our plans and these are what we're doing and blah blah blah. And it's like
Those
what
the guards can't pay attention. There's hot women in the room.
Yeah, their jaws keep hitting the floor and their tongue rolls out like a cash register receipt,
Exactly.
so they can't do nothing about it. Kirk, Spock, and Scotty decide obviously that they need more dilithium crystals, whatever. And they're like, there's a mining operation on Rigel 12, which isn't this like the second or third Rigel we've been to?
It's the 12th, apparently.
Like, because I could have sworn, I think they say something about Rigel in the first episode. I think that's where they like just had a
Maybe.
battle on a Rigel planet.
Maybe this. I mean, this is obviously like the Rigel system.
Yeah. So naming convention
we're
in
in
I don't know how it works in Star Trek, but how it works in like space typically is that when it's name a thing and then a number, it's like that's the star system and then the number is like the order of orbit. So that is
Yeah,
the
yeah,
12th
yeah.
planet from the star Rigel, basically.
Yeah. So it's furthest from assuming there's only 12.
Yeah.
It's furthest from the sun.
So but like I don't know. I just think it's maybe I'm crazy. I could swear this is like the third Rigel we've been to and we're on episode 7.
Yeah, it sounds familiar. I'm sure I don't know. I don't know. Well, should we start a Rigel count?
Yeah.
Should we start that now? Write down how many
Yeah.
Rigels we've been to.
Write down every Rigel. If a character shows up called Rigel, he counts.
Oh, okay.
Rigel Bornberry.
Ooh.
But the mining colony is 2 days away, which like doesn't really come up, but it gives them time to talk. And they sit Harry Mudd, Leo Walsh, and the girls in front of a computer that can just tell if people lies.
It's a lie detector, yeah. It's actually the bit from The Simpsons where they put Moe on the lie detector. And, and he's like, I gotta go, I got a hot date. And it just calls him a liar.
Liar.
Okay, I've got a date.
Liar.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna just go home and ogle girls in the Victoria's Secret catalog. It calls him a liar again. All right, Sears catalog.
That's really good. It actually reminds me of there's a comic called Saga. Have I told you ever about Saga?
Yeah, you told me about it.
One of the main characters has a pet cat who can tell when people lie, and it can't talk, but whenever somebody lies, it just goes lie.
Ooh,
Yeah.
my cat can do that too.
Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen Gigi do that. Uh,
But yeah, so this lie detector bit, um, they're all sitting around, and Mud's trying to spin his yarn, and the computer's like, he's full of shit,
yeah.
and he's like, this damn computer.
Surely you wouldn't take a damnable machine's word over a flesh and blood man.
You wouldn't trust a Google search, would you, Captain Kirk?
This is the
Uh,
alternate history where Google didn't get taken over by an AI that just gives you the wrong answer.
Damn, that's true. Uh, and then the computer goes into business for itself, and it also says this guy's full of shit. These women are hot. Also, all the crew members are drooling and pissing
Yeah,
themselves because the women, and they're all like sweating. They're like
yeah.
wiping sweat from their foreheads. Like these guys need to get out of here.
These dudes need to
Stop
go
letting them
because
in the
these are
room.
again just women. These
Yeah,
are just normal women. I mean,
I
attractive women, but
I maintain that they're beautiful women, but like, dude, you've never met a woman before?
we have several women on this ship.
Bones almost got his salt sucked the other episode.
Yeah, what a what a cherry popping that would have been.
Oh my goodness.
Uh, one other thing that I want to point out here is the computer at one point like scans the women and cannot recognize them. And so I guess the change that they are going through is real to an extent.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
enough to
well,
change them to where the computer can't figure it out.
until it's not. I guess
Yeah,
we'll get there.
I don't know. This part confuses me, and I also feel like it's going to be a thing where we're going to get like 3 episodes from now. And it's going to be like, why don't they just sit him in front of the lying computer that knows when people lie?
We broke it.
When we were talking to what's his face, Dr. Crater, about the salt vampire, why didn't we
Yeah.
just stick him in front of the computer that knows when you lie?
We hadn't invented it yet. And then we invented it, and then after this episode, in order to save another ship from getting like sucked into a sun, he threw it out the Enterprise window.
Yeah, they had to
To,
jettison it to
to
lighten the ship.
yeah, to confuse the gravitational pull so that the ship could escape.
Some say it's still telling if that black hole is lying to this day. So the only things we get out of this really is that Mudd has to tell them that his real name is Harry Mudd, or like Harold something or other Mudd. He tells them like his full government.
Yeah.
And then he's like, he tells them that he took the name Leo Walsh from a previous captain who was supposed to take these women to wherever they're going, but he's now dead. Do we think that is true? And if we think that is true, did he kill him?
It might be true. It might also not be true. Do I think he killed him? No.
He doesn't read as murderer to me.
No,
He's
he's
a
a bit
shyster, but I don't think he could
he's
kill.
a bit too whimsical
Yeah.
to just straight up kill somebody and take their ship. If he had done that, the second he noticed that there was a lie detector computer in the room, he would have like whipped out a phaser and started shooting people.
Yeah. And then I pulled out my gun. Okay, anyway, so Mudd then says that his plan, what he's doing with these women, the reason that they are considered cargo and not crew, is because he is running basically like a mail order bride service, and he is going to planets where it's like a single family colony and finding marriageable young women there that he can take to other colonies and marry off to like a rich person, and then presumably take some amount of like a dowry purchase or price.
Mm-hmm.
Which honestly, given how a lot of the colonies we've seen here are where it's like a single family or a single person, like I don't know, it's clearly it's illegal because they're getting onto him about it, but it feels like a thing that like if regulated could make sense. Like I don't think it's evil.
It's not
Because both
evil,
of the people
but
involved are agreeing to the marriage. You know, I
yeah,
mean, there's a
I
thing,
don't.
there's the thing that is being involved in this that on top of that makes it a little bit sketchy. But
Well,
just
okay, yeah,
playing
that.
space matchmaker, I don't think that's a problem at all.
In theory, but I don't think it's sustainable because, and I say this because of the guys that we meet later in this episode. I think that this business model would have an awful lot. I mean, it would be fine for Harry Mudd,
Yeah,
but he would deliver the women, take his paycheck, fly away, and then like a week later, the wife he delivered would be murdered and buried on the planet.
yeah. Unfortunately, some of these, some of the guys seem pretty awful. So that's
Yeah,
unfortunately not impossible. Um, but hey, maybe they can get space divorced. You know.
I think space divorce is just murder and buried.
and then they can take them for half of their dilithium crystals, and then they become lithium crystals. The weird like hearing finishes up, and they're basically just like, okay, well, we're gonna give you to the police. Like, you're going to jail,
Yeah.
if for no other reason than because you're flying without a license.
Yeah, absolutely.
But as he's going to leave, the main of the three women, Eve McCurran, grabs Kirk and is like, "But what's gonna happen to us? Like, we still want to get married and all of this and blah blah blah." And that like buys enough time that the last lithium crystal goes out or something, and people run in, and then Kirk drops that they're going to Rigel. They're going to a mining colony, and then all of a sudden, Mud is like, "Oh, okay, perfect. I was gonna sell these women to miners anyway, and lithium miners are richer than the miners I was gonna take them to."
Sure.
So
He gets very confident. Confident enough that he seems to think that he can buy the Enterprise and then boss Kirk around.
can you imagine? Because
That's not how a military ship works.
that's
sir.
what I'm saying. Is the Enterprise is, at least to my understanding, like the equivalent of a battleship.
Yeah.
And he
It's,
got
it's a naval
arrested.
ship.
And he got arrested, and he's like, one day I'm gonna have enough money that I'm gonna be captain of this ship. And it's like, okay, well, you have to apply to the military for that.
No, well, now that I'm thinking about it, it's a little bit too true to real life, and
Yeah, a
now
little
I don't
bit.
like it.
You just gotta host Fox News for a little while, and then you can get on there. Oh, sorry, Spock's News.
Oh, I'd watch Spock's News. He
I would
wouldn't lie.
100% watch Spock's News. He would give it to you right down the barrel. Like, there would be no bias at all. He'd just be like, this is the fact. This is what happened.
100%.
Anyway, so then we start seeing Mud, like, sends the women out on missions to, like, gather intel.
Mm-hmm.
So he sends the one in the green dress with the long, dark hair. He sends her to flirt with Bones in the med bay. And out of that, she finds out that there are 3 miners on the planet and that they're all healthy, which I guess is useful information because now they know that there's enough men there that all 3 of them can get married. But also while she's there, she like walks past a scanner and it beeps at her, and Bones is like, "Girl, are you radioactive?
Do that again.
Do that again. Can you walk?" He says, "Can you walk past my panel again?" And she goes, "What?"
No, the medical scanner. It does lead to like a scene from now where Bones is talking to Kirk, and he basically says, "These women are too hot, Jim. They might be aliens."
They might be aliens. Which honestly, if my guys were going cartoon wolf about how hot they were, like, yeah, I might start to think that there was something more going on too. And then it turns out that there's kind of not, which is disappointing for my crew.
Embarrassingly enough, Bones, no, they're not aliens.
Yeah.
You're just a horn dog.
Maybe he like thinks now that he has like a Xeno fetish because he was in love with the salt vampire for a second.
He's trying to like rationalize not being attracted to this woman.
Yeah.
He's a little xenophobic in that way.
Ah.
He's like, I can't be horny if she's an alien.
Um,
Last alien tried to suck my salt.
tried to suck my salt right out through my skin with its gross little suction fingers. And then Kirk goes to his bedroom and he finds Miss McCurran fully just laying on his bed. She's just hanging out. This is like the second time in 7 episodes that Kirk has gone into his room and there's just been a lady in his bed. And I think both times he was like, "What are you doing here?"
It's happened again.
This isn't a pool. This is a bathtub.
This is. I would arrest that woman for trespassing. Get out of here.
But she tells him like that she was hiding in there because she didn't want to get ogled by the guys, which honestly, fair. But then like, why are you laying in my bed? Like, we know that there's a table right over there with some chairs. You could just be hanging out. You don't need to be laying in my bed.
I don't even think that is fair. I think the fair thing to do would be to take it to the HR or to the captain directly and be like, "Hey, you're horny people keep catcalling me. Can you get them to
Yeah, I mean,
leave
there's
me
better
alone?"
options for sure.
And
I mean, she
instead
could
of
have just
like, "Oh, I'll just see myself into these private quarters and
or
lay
like
seductively on this bed."
she could have just stayed in the meeting room that they were like contained to. That I guess those guards weren't really doing anything about.
I mean, they were horny too, probably.
I guess they did say that Mud was the only one getting charged, so the other 3 women were like innocent. So I guess they were free to walk around.
Does that mean you can walk into the captain's cabin?
Yeah, that seems like a breach of security for sure. But she is very attractive, so she's allowed to do whatever she wants. But she starts like flirting with him super heavy, and they almost kiss. But then she's like, "I can't do it." And she runs out because she doesn't want to be evil.
I yeah, I mean that's probably the correct way to interpret it. I wrote down in my notes, this woman would rather blow the entire operation than kiss James T. Kirk.
Yeah, it does kind of read like that a little bit. Um, but no, because we're supposed to believe that James T. Kirk is super hot. And to be fair, he is pretty attractive. I mean, he turns into a toad. We know that.
Yeah,
But right now, Shatner's pretty hot.
he's a handsome guy.
So, I mean, he can get it.
I mean, he doesn't pop his slutty shoulder out in this episode.
It's a real shame. If there was ever a slutty shoulder moment, it should have been this one.
This episode was already too slutty for the '60s. This one never would have made it to air.
I hope we get a slutty shoulder pop from Bones. That's what I'm saying.
Ooh, that might be asking a lot, but you know what? I'll see what I can do.
All right, you better write it into this 40. Oh, God, no, it's like 60-year-old show. Jesus.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
oh my God. So then Miss Huron like runs back to the meeting room where the girls are, and she's like, she like interrupts them doing scheming where they're like, there's this and it's perfect and we can do this and we'll get all the money and Mud starts talking about like you can be a queen and you'll be a duchess and like he's going hard. But then our main mail order bride starts feeling sick because her magic pretty pill is wearing off.
Yep, we got pretty pills.
We got pretty pills, baby. So it like cuts to the bridge in the middle here, and this is where Bones is talking about he thinks that the women are like an alien or an illusion because they're crazy and like there's no way that they could be this hot. And then immediately after, the women start like they dry out is what I wrote.
Ew.
Because
Not untrue. So it's funny because like essentially what it becomes is like the pretty pill wears off and they go from being these like ultra beautiful women to being the same women but with no makeup. But it's not even no makeup. It's a lot of makeup meant to make them look like they're not wearing makeup.
yeah, that's basically what it is. So just to sum it up for people who haven't watched the episode, in this scene, we learn that the women have been taking a drug called Venus. And the drug makes them irresistibly beautiful. But not like psychically irresistibly beautiful. It just makes them super pretty. And then when it wears off, my assumption is that it makes them look worse than before. Because what happens is that they just look like they dried out. Like they literally just look like they need a little bit of moisturizer in like a bath or something. Like that's all it
Yeah.
does. They don't look ugly. They just look dry.
I would I would dare say they even still look pretty. They just like have makeup crow's feet and just like a lot of like caked on makeup that makes them look like a little bit like the dry skin or whatever.
It's very weird. I mean, we talked about it in an earlier episode where it was like, oh, this Hollywood actress has turned 40 and now she's a witch, and I think like this is the same thing here.
Basically.
Because like at no point do they stop being attractive. They look like they need a glass of water. But that's about it.
Yeah.
But the two Mud like starts running around looking for the pills that he hid in their room, I guess, to make them pretty again. And he eventually finds them and gives it to him. And the Blossom and Buttercup and Bubbles take the pills and just immediately they start acting weird. Like they start like rubbing on their faces and stuff. Like it's like there's no other way to say it. It's like they're experiencing an orgasm.
A little bit.
It's weird. It's straight up
Yeah.
weird. And Miss McCurran doesn't want to take it. Eve McCurran doesn't want to take it because she's like, it's cheating. I don't like it, blah, blah, blah. But then she caves in like pretty much immediately and just does it.
Yeah, she's a bit over it in the sense that so the other two, they're like, give it to me. I need to be beautiful. I must be beautiful. I'm ugly this way. And the pink dress wearing one is more like I don't want to take this. And I just feel bad that I don't look the way people don't like how I look, I guess, and taking this is the only way to be accepted. She's a bit more
She feels like she's being
rational
peer
and
pressured into it a
yeah,
little bit.
I think she still is like she still wants to look beautiful
Sure.
and like but she's not addicted to it like the other two are. She's just sad that this is her situation.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The other two are completely substance pilled.
For sure, for sure. And so they take the pill, and it, puts some conditioner in their hair and puts a little bit of shea butter on their skin, and otherwise they look pretty much the same. And then the the miners come on board, and it turns out that they have been in communication with Harry Mudd because one of the other girl brought a communicator back and gave it to him, and he was able to talk to the miners. And so they
A
come
long
up,
range communicator.
yeah, apparently, and they're like, "Hey, we have lithium crystals," and Kirk's like, "Great, we want to buy them. We got money. Like, we're the Starfleet. We'll buy them." And the guy goes, "No, I want a lady," which is a
Uh-huh.
crazy thing to say.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
He
dude.
said, "I heard from Harry S. Mudd that you got ladies, and I
Y'all
want a
sell,
lady."
y'all selling hookers up here?
Like, that's unhinged.
Dude, chill out.
And Kirk like refuses. He's like, Starfleet cannot trade women for batteries. Like, that's not a thing
Absolutely
that we're
not.
gonna do. But then Mudd like kind of strong arms them into. So I don't. This part's like kind of a blur to me of like exactly how it happens. But somehow Mudd and the girls end up down on the planet with the miners, and Starfleet has like not agreed to the terms of that happening
Yeah.
yet. But
Well,
they're like threatening him because they're like, okay, well if you don't get your crystals, then
yeah.
your ship's gonna crash in like 3 days or whatever.
Yeah, I think that's the only reason Kirk lets this kind of play out the way it does because he's got no other option. Like these guys are like, we're not giving you nothing unless you give us the ladies.
Yeah. But so they all end up down on the planet, and it's like it's another Star Trek planet where it's a bunch of rocks and like a weird colored sky. But on this one, there's a
Yeah.
lot of wind and it's like throwing dust around. Like that's its defining characteristic.
Sand, I think they call it a sandstorm at one point.
Yeah. And so they end up down on the planet, and Kirk is like, okay, fine. Like clearly the women are already down here. Clearly they're wanting to marry you anyway. We'll make this trade. It's fine. And then the guy's like, okay, cool. As soon as I'm done capadoning this Eve on the wall over here, like as soon as I'm done trying to flirt with this woman who just wants to be my wife, then I'll give you the thing that you need to stop your ship from crashing into my planet. And I don't understand this.
These
He
miners,
has everything he wants right now, and he's like, I don't feel like giving you the battery right now.
yeah, they just suck.
He
They just suck as
sucks.
people.
He's like too busy trying to make out to do the thing that he wants to do.
Like, dude, you're a miner. You're on contract from some company, I would assume.
That's the thing,
And
right? Because
you're not a drug lord or a crime lord or something. You don't get to be like, yeah, yeah, government official. I'll help you when I feel like it. It's like, excuse me, we
that
we made a trade. Give me the shit, and I'm gonna leave now.
like that's the insane part though is because Mudd is talking about these people like they're super rich, like oh they sell lithium crystals, it's a super expensive, like super valuable resource, and then we see their homes and they're like shitty little holes in the ground. Everyone's dressed in torn up bad clothes. Like they did nothing to prove through visuals that these people have money.
I'm still not even convinced that these guys have money. Maybe they have the ability to trade the crystals, but that money's not theirs. It has to be some large mining company firm or something that allow. I mean, we're trying to add details between the lines to make it make sense, I
Yeah,
guess. When in fact it doesn't really matter. But these guys suck.
they
That's
suck.
the short and sweet of it.
The main guy with like the big bald spot on top, I don't remember his name. He he's I mean, no, he's the better of them, I guess. But
No,
what
I
ends up
disagree.
happening in this scene is like they all start pairing off and they're dancing, but Eve doesn't want to dance. So she's
Right.
like up against the wall, and then she at one point coughs, and I guess somehow that is the breaking point for bald guy.
Like
And
this guy's
so
Vince McMahon.
he just goes and it like cuts in on a different person, like one of the other girls. I think the one in the green dress, and he's like, I'm gonna date this one now. And the other guy goes, okay, and he moves off to the girl in the blue dress, and he's like, okay, well, I want this one then. Like, they're just trading these women like they're Pokemon cards.
Yeah, I mean that's supposed to be the point. Like it's not
Yeah,
very eloquently done.
is they don't care which one they end up with,
Yeah, no,
as
they
long as
don't
it's
care.
not Eve because she coughed once and doesn't want to dance. I guess.
So it gets to the point where Eve runs out in the sandstorm, and then the guy chases after her,
She says,
and they get
"Why don't
back to
you
his
do a
little.
lottery and the loser can have me?" She runs out in the dust.
Why'd you want to come here? This is what you wanted. It's gross and awful and terrible, and I wouldn't have suggested you do it, but you
Honestly, she could
you
just get
wanted to
back on the
come
ship and
here.
hang out with Kirk, and I bet she'd have
You
a better
can,
time.
yeah, leave.
She don't have to be here.
The miner goes. They go back to their little like cave hut. They live in caves.
Yeah,
Rich my ass.
that's what I'm
And then
saying.
he like wakes up the next day and she's cooking breakfast.
Yeah. Well, okay. A part that we have to throw in here because it's important for the ticking clock is she runs out and then they go back up to the ship and are scanning for like a full day trying to find her, but the sandstorm somehow has like a magnetic property to it where they can't
Yeah.
scan the planet and figure out where people are. So they're running out of energy. They still haven't given them the batteries for the trade that has already occurred.
Yeah.
And the one miner has pretty quickly, it seems, already gone out, found Eve, and then took her back to his caveman hut to and then fully fallen asleep. And he just like doesn't care about the trade he was supposed to make that it will stop these people from dying.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He's the fucking worst.
And yeah, so we're at this cave hut and she's making breakfast and he wakes up and he's like, "Oh, help yourself to my food, why don't you?" And she's like, "Well, I'm making breakfast for you." He's like, "You think I can't make my own breakfast? I eat breakfast all the time. You think it's gonna taste good just because a woman made it?" And then he takes a bite, and it clearly is good.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Well, I've eaten food before. Don't think you're special." And it's just like, what? It was at this point where I was like, dude. I mean, I was
Why do you
thinking,
even want to be married, dude?
why, why did you, why did you want her here if not for this? And then
And why
it's
does
because he
she still
wants,
want to be there?
it's because he wants sex,
Yeah.
not a wife. But also the idea that they're portraying here is like the wife is like she's good for like three things: cooking, cleaning, and sex.
Hmm.
Like, okay.
Yeah, because it goes. So she makes him breakfast, and he's like, "Oh, that's good." And then they're squabbling about like, because he says like, "Oh, I've been plenty able to cook for myself," and
Yeah.
she says something to the effect of like, "Well, you're eating some of your cooking now because I had to scrape off a bunch of the food that was already in there because you're terrible at washing your dishes." And then she
Yeah.
tells him that like, "Why don't you just put your pots and pans outside in the sandstorm and let it get sandblasted clean?" And he's like, "Oh, damn! Oh, why didn't I think about that?" And he just does it.
That's pretty smart.
Yeah,
But yeah, no, it's just the idea of, like I said, the cooking, cleaning, and sex, and he doesn't want the cooking and cleaning.
yeah. He's like, "I can cook and
Dude,
clean for myself, but I can't sex myself."
I can't. They haven't invented a way how yet.
He's looking at his hands like, "What do I do with these?"
He's a miner. He's got
He'll
hard,
rip it
calloused
off. Yeah, no,
hands.
that's right. That makes sense.
That's not.
They don't have a holodeck, so I mean, think about
Mm-mm-mm.
that. But then he comes back in from sandblasting his pots and pans, and she's like playing solitaire but with circle cards,
That is the future.
and the lighting is different,
Actually,
and
she's
her
not
hair's
playing
down.
solitaire. She says she's playing a different thing.
Oh, I just assumed it was solitaire because he says, "Well,
Well,
the
no.
black something goes on the red something." I
Yeah,
was
well,
like,
yeah. So
okay.
that's he comes in. He's like, "You playing solitaire?" She's like, "No, I'm playing a different game." And he's like, "Put the black on the red." And she's like, "That's not how this game works.
It's a different
It's a
game.
different game." He's like, "Well, I've never heard of it. Why are
Um,
you ugly now?"
yeah, and to be clear, she's not even wearing the like "I'm dry now" makeup. She's literally just not wearing as much
Yeah,
makeup. And he's
yeah.
like, "You're homely. You lied to me. This is fake." And it's like, brother, you're living on a planet alone with two guys who are just as ugly as you. Like, take what you can get. And also, she's still pretty hot.
You don't own any mirrors in this cave world? Because look at you, dude.
Anyway, it's like it feels like it's about to like turn into a full-on screaming match, and then Kirk and Mud come into the place and tell the shitty miner about the Venus drug. He's like, you know, I was taking this pill and it makes him pretty, and blah blah blah. and he gets all pissy about it. And we also learn that somehow in the middle of the night, the other two guys and the other two girls have gotten like subspace radio married. Like they just called a
Yeah.
priest, I guess, and we're like, we're married now. And the guy was like, cool,
And,
enjoy banging.
and this dude gets so pissed. He's like, "You let my boys marry ugly women?" And then the first thing Kirk says to calm him down is like, "Don't worry, they can annul it." What are you talking
Oh
about?
my god, this show does not treat women great.
No, it hates women.
It is not a good show for women. Um,
We're at the point now where like if there's a woman-centric episode, I'm like, okay, uh-oh.
how will this woman be victimized today? Um, but no, so Mud like produces a pill, and he's like, takes it from him, and she starts like screaming about like, "Is this what you want? You have a fake wife? I could keep taking the drug," and she takes it, and then they do a cut where she basically just changes her hair. She like flips her hair to the other side and combs it back a little bit different so it doesn't look as dry.
Yeah.
And then immediately after, the guy's like, "Oh, she's hot again, but I don't know, like, but she's hot again, like, so now she's okay." And they reveal, like, no, the pretty was inside her the whole time. That was just
We
red gelatin.
we placeboed. We gave her a Flintstones vitamin gummy.
Confidence is the real beauty, and it's like that's such a horseshit thing to
What?
put at the end of this episode where you were just making fun of
Also,
mildly unattractive women.
I want to say earlier when he got all mad, like, "Your beauty came from a pill. Oh, I'll kill you." That's not what he would have said. When they come in and said, "There's a Venus drug," and he would have said, "You have more, right?
Yeah.
You got more of that. You're gonna leave some of that behind, right?"
If he's rich, he should be able to just buy more.
Yeah, in theory. Mud needs to give him the plug.
That's how he does it. Is he sells these people and then he sells a subscription service to them being hot.
Uh,
That's gotta be.
we're on to you, Harry.
Yeah. Honestly, not the worst
No,
idea.
the beauty comes from within thing. On paper, like, okay, that's an all right message to do. In execution, that is undeserved here.
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense.
I
It doesn't work.
There's an aspect of this where it's like it could have worked to an extent. I think that it could have been like, oh no, like this guy still thought you were pretty even though you weren't really on the drug. Like you are just a pretty woman. Which
Also,
there are more important things to being pretty, but whatever. That's what
he-
we're caring about in this episode.
here's something important to stress about this ending.
Yeah.
The women stay with the miners.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is like, why would you stay with this guy? First of all, he's not attractive. He's balding. He's rude. He can't clean his own dishes. He looks like he smells. Like,
He's just a schlub.
we are told he's rich, but I have seen nothing to prove it.
Again, I
So
don't think he's
what
rich.
is the redeeming quality of this dickhead miner? Why are we leaving these women with this guy who
The redeeming
has known her for
quality-
3 days and has tried to beat her twice?
The redeeming quality is she gets to be married. And then Kirk is like, "All right, Harry, let's go. I'm taking you to jail."
Yeah.
And Harry's like, "Oh,
Right in the right in the heart. Or no, yeah, because then Bones is like, "Oh, what a beautiful love story. It really hits you right in the heart." And then he makes fun of Spock because his heart's like over on the side or something. He's like, "Oh, for you, it'd be over
just
here."
ending with alien bigotry."
So we spend the whole. I don't know. You know what? When I watched this episode, I was like, "Oh, it's kind of fun." And now talking through it, I'm like, "This is problematic as hell."
Oh, you talked yourself out of liking it.
A little bit, yeah. I think I still kind
I
of enjoyed
was-
it, but it's definitely problematic.
So here's the thing.
Yeah,
I like Kirk in this episode.
I do too.
The crew is the crew. Spock doesn't really do a lot. I genuinely like Harry Mudd.
I do too. I really like him. He's a lot of
I-
fun.
I like him a bit. Good for us. He shows up one more time.
Oh,
There's another Mudd episode that we'll get to. And then I think they even like did a Mudd thing, in like recent Star Trek, like Discovery, or like the shorts that they did, where he's played by Rainn Wilson.
Oh,
I don't know enough if that's a good casting or not.
I mean, I like
didn't
Rainn
watch it.
Wilson.
I like Rainn Wilson, and I know Rainn Wilson likes nerdy stuff like Star Trek. So, so I like Mudd. I'm glad he comes back. This episode, though, Like, I think it starts and it's just like, okay, mysterious pirate. He's got 3 women. Something's going on with him. 3 women walking down that way,
They were birds.
and um, and then I think it just goes off the rails from there. And by the time that we get to the end, it's just like, what even is this?
Yeah.
I came into our recording here knowing I'm gonna give this one an illogical, even
Yeah.
though I like Harry Mudd, I do, but I don't like this episode. I don't think.
Yeah. So on our rating system where illogical is bad and engage is good,
Yeah.
I think I kind of agree with you. I came into this thinking I was going to give it an engage because
Mhm.
I had a lot of fun watching it. But now that I think about it,
Mm.
like now talking through the things that I liked about it, the things I like about it make it so problematic because
Yeah.
I enjoy it, and it from like a sort of toxic, like I can't believe they did this sort of way. And
Sure.
also, like you said, I love Kirk in this. I love Mudd in this. I think they're really fun characters. I even like Eve in this. I think that she,
Yeah, she's good.
if her
I
ending was slightly different, could
Yeah.
have been a really great story for her here.
If she had gotten the confidence, she got placeboed and then said, "Well, then I'm gonna go back with you and go find a
Yeah,
job
I'm gonna
somewhere and
join
do
Starfleet. I'm
whatever."
gonna go do something else.
Yeah,
Right?
then
I'm gonna
that would have
go follow my
may have
dream.
even saved the episode, I think.
Yeah, I think no. I
But
think
that's
I'm
not what
with you.
happened. She was like, "I am beautiful. I'll marry this abusive
I'll
man."
marry this terrible balding man who
What
sucks ass. Yeah,
the
no, you're
hell?
right. It has to be illogical. It has to
Yeah.
be illogical. There's no coming back from that. Ugh.
Um, but anyways,
At least it's a fun illogical.
my last, yeah, I'll give it that. My last trivia is about the actor that plays Harry Mudd,
Hmm.
Roger C. Carmel, or Caramel if you're nasty. So he's much like a bunch of guest spots we'll be seeing on TOS. He did a lot of TV back in the 60s. He's on an episode of Batman. I couldn't tell you who. I don't think he did anybody. I don't know.
Watch it be
But
Bullock or something.
he also voiced various characters in Transformers, including the character Cyclonus.
I don't know who that is. I'm
Uh,
gonna guess
if,
an airplane.
if you know who Cyclonus is and what he transforms into, comment down below.
I know exactly one person that we know who should know that answer.
It'll be a test to see if they're listening.
Ah,
If they bother to
clever.
listen to our Star Trek episodes.
And if you are listening to our Star Trek episodes, please leave a comment or a review or whatever you can on whichever platform that you're watching this on, either Spotify or YouTube. Those are the only two we're on at this moment. You can follow the show on Twitter at RSR_POD. You can follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Daniel J. McG. And you can follow Skyler on Blue Sky at Skyler8bit. And until next time, let's see what's
Let's
out
see
there.
what's out there.
The game's just starting, the world's so bright. Jump right in, everything feels right. Let's play, take a trip back in time where pixels and memories and